145 million years ago, Earth became a planet you wouldn't recognize. 82% of the surface vanished beneath boiling seas. The air turned toxic, thick with sulfur and steam. And the apex predators weren't human. They were something far worse. For 79 million years, this planet belonged to monsters. But here's what they don't tell you in school. The Cretaceous Period wasn't just history. It was a nightmare that refused to die quietly. And the way it ended, that's the part that will haunt you. Because you're not just about to learn how they lived. You're about to see how they died. In the next few minutes, you'll travel back to the most alien, hostile, and terrifying era Earth has ever seen. And by the end, you'll uncover the one horrifying truth scientists tried to bury. The truth about how it all ended. But there's something darker than the asteroid. Something that turned the extinction into 200,000 years of pure hell. Stay till the end. Because the truth is darker than you think. 145 million years ago, Earth began to disappear beneath the waves. Oceans swallowed 82% of the planet's surface. Only 18% remained as land. Today, it's 28%. Europe, Russia, North America, Australia, Africa, and India were all drowned beneath vast, shallow seas. A single seaway sliced North America in half, stretching from the Arctic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. If you stood on a beach then, you wouldn't see continents. You'd see endless water, stretching into a horizon that never stopped. Earth no longer looked familiar. It looked alien. A blue, flooded world where land was vanishing faster than life could adapt. But drowning wasn't the worst part. The air itself was changing into something no human could survive. The oceans rose, but the air was even deadlier. CO2 levels spiked between 840 and 1,680 parts per million, nearly 4 times higher than today. The planet turned into a giant greenhouse. Global temperatures climbed more than 10 degrees Celsius hotter than now. There was no ice, not at the poles, not anywhere. Tropical heat reached the Arctic, and dense forests grew where glaciers stand today. If you walked outside, the air would feel heavy, wet, and hard to breathe. Each breath would burn like steam. This wasn't Earth anymore. It was a fever dream planet, spiraling into its own meltdown. And while the world cooked above, the ground below began to tear itself apart. Pangaea, the great supercontinent, was dying. Its heart cracked open under fire and pressure. Gondwana shattered into pieces. South America, Africa, India, Australia, and Antarctica drifted apart like broken bones. The Atlantic Ocean opened between them, a fresh wound bleeding magma and steam. Even North America split in two. Laramidia in the west, Appalachia in the east. Entire ecosystems became trapped on island continents, cut off forever. Evolution went into overdrive. Creatures stranded in isolation began to change. Fast, violent, unpredictable. Some adapted, some became monsters. But isolation wasn't the strangest thing happening. Around 125 million years ago, something invaded the planet. And what it brought would change everything. The invasion didn't come from space. It came from flowers. Around 125 million years ago, flowering plants appeared. And they spread like a virus. In just 35 million years, they went from 0% to 80% of all plant life. Scientists call it the Cretaceous Terrestrial Revolution, a hostile takeover of the biosphere. The old forests of cycads and conifers were choked out, replaced by bright new ecosystems that bloomed and spread endlessly. With them came new insects, new mammals, and new birds, drawn to the color, scent, and fruit. The entire food chain rewired itself. The planet became unrecognizable. Even Charles Darwin called it an abominable mystery. And this new world, it needed new rulers. So evolution built monsters. This was the age of monsters. The dinosaurs had reached their final and most terrifying form. Bigger, smarter, deadlier. Triceratops roamed in herds, 8 meters long, weighing 10 tons, their 3 horns ready for war. Ankylosaurs, armored like tanks, swung spiked tails strong enough to shatter bone. Hadrosaurs, the duck-billed giants, migrated in herds of thousands, their calls echoing across ancient plains. Above them all, Titanosaurs, the long-necked giants, stretched higher than buildings, moving like slow-motion earthquakes. The land trembled beneath their weight, but not all tremors came from footsteps. Something watched them, something learned from their movements, and one creature stood above them all. A predator so perfect, it ruled the late Cretaceous like a living nightmare. Tyrannosaurus rex, the tyrant king of Earth. 40 feet long, 18,000 pounds of muscle and hunger. Armed with 60 teeth, each 8 inches long, serrated like steak knives. It had the strongest bite force of any land animal in history. Strong enough to crush bone like glass. Its brain was twice the size of most dinosaurs. It wasn't just strong, it was smart. It could run 12 miles per hour, fast enough to chase you down before you could scream. Picture it, a dark forest, 68 million years ago. The ground shakes. You hear breathing behind you. You turn, and it's already too late. But T-Rex only ruled the land. In the oceans, something worse was waiting. Beneath the waves, the oceans belonged to demons. Mosasaurs, 40-foot marine reptiles, ruled the depths with jaws wide enough to swallow sharks whole. They replaced the old ichthyosaurs as the new apex predators. Plesiosaurs, like Elasmosaurus, glided silently through black water, their necks twisting like serpents. Giant sea turtles drifted through currents. Ammonites spun through the dark with their spiral shells. Teleost fish filled the shallows like living clouds, while Rudis bivalves built coral-like reefs that stretched for miles. The oceans weren't peaceful. They were feeding grounds. If the land didn't kill you, the water would. And if you tried to escape into the sky, that's where the real nightmares waited. The sky belonged to pterosaurs, winged reptiles as big as fighter jets. Some spanned 30 feet, gliding over oceans, hunting fish and smaller prey. Even the first birds were strange. Hesperornithes were flightless, toothed divers. Enanthornithes looked like failed experiments in evolution. Above the seas and forests, nothing was safe. The air wasn't freedom. It was a graveyard. For 79 million years, this nightmare world thrived. But then, something started to go wrong. Around 100 million years ago, the oceans began to suffocate. Oceanic anoxic events, when deep waters lost their oxygen, swept across the planet. Marine life died in waves. Organic matter piled up, forming black shales, layers of death buried in stone. Meanwhile, volcanoes erupted across vast igneous provinces, spewing CO2 and sulfur into the sky. The climate turned chaotic. Heat spikes, acid rain, poisoned air. And in the late Cretaceous, something even worse began. Deep in future India, the ground cracked open, and what escaped would poison the planet for centuries. The Deccan Traps, a volcanic nightmare we can barely imagine. Around 67 million years ago, lava poured out in 4 colossal pulses. Each eruption spewed sulfur dioxide and CO2 for thousands of years. The oceans acidified, the air turned toxic, seasons collapsed into chaos. Marine life began to die, ecosystems unraveled, and it didn't stop. It went on, and on, and on. The Cretaceous world was already choking to death. And then, 66 million years ago, the sky itself fell. But the way it ended was far worse than a single impact. It wasn't quick. The extinction wasn't a moment. It was 200,000 years of hell. The asteroid hit in spring, carving the Chicxulub crater into the Yucatan, vaporizing stone and blotting out the sun. But the Deccan Traps were already erupting, and they didn't stop. Volcanic winters, acid rain, and dark skies erased 75% of life. Not in a day, but over millennia. The Cretaceous didn't die fast. It bled out slowly, and the Earth remembered. So that's the real Cretaceous story. A greenhouse nightmare, ruled by monsters, ended by an extinction so slow it lasted hundreds of thousands of years. Now you know, it wasn't a fairy tale. It was a horror story. If this changed how you see Earth's past, subscribe for more buried nightmares. Would you visit that world, or let it stay dead?